All right, what is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another GSDMode podcast weekly leveling up tip, where every single week I come to you with different tips, tactics, and strategies to help you continue to level up in your own personal success journeys. All right, so today I'm here to talk to you about how to become a badass. Now, when you hear me saying that, you might be looking at me or listening to me, be like, Josh, who the hell are you to talk to me about how to become a badass? Maybe you don't deem me to be a badass. That's not what, I'm not here to define what a badass to you should be. Only you can define that. And as I get into these steps, we're going to talk about that, and that's what we're going to lead off with. So we might as well jump into step number one here is you must define what being a badass is to you. Each of us, and this, when it comes to our overall goals, when it comes to this stuff, only you or I can define what that means for our own individual selves. So when you think about that, right? And again, step number one is defining what a badass means for you. Like becoming, like if you break down your own alter ego, like becoming your own superhero, however you want to classify this in your head, but the way that I look at this, and all I can do is walk you through what I do and how I become the best version of myself. And that's here what I do on these leveling up episodes is I look at, okay, when I'm looking in the mirror, when that person that's looking back at me, when I'm looking in that mirror, what must I see to be proud of that person? And I'm not just speaking from an aesthetic standpoint and a physical standpoint. I'm talking, that's part of it. But I'm talking about when you look at yourself in the mirror, you're looking at yourself in the eyes, you're looking at yourself deep into your own freaking soul. Like, who is that person that must be staring back at you that you are absolutely and utterly proud of that person? And break that down and define that. So what does that look like? Like for you to be the badass that you know you are capable of becoming. What are the traits? What are the characteristics? What are the accomplishments? What are the things that that person does? What are the things that that person achieves? Like, who is that person? For me at the highest possible level, I talk a lot about vision boards and getting clarity and all of that stuff. A lot here on this podcast, but all of those different things lead to just me being proud of the person that I see looking at the other end of that mirror. At the end of the day, that's all that this boils down to, at least for me in my own journey, is I want to be proud of the motherfucker that I see in that mirror each and every day. And there's days where, man, I fall short of that. Okay, well, I'm going to learn from that, and we'll break that down and talk about that today. But step number one of becoming a badass is defining what a badass means to you. How do you define that? Definitions are important, right? Not what society thinks a badass is. What do you think a badass is? Like, and this just is an exercise to walk us through of like, hey man, if I could go out there and grow and operate into my greatest potential in all aspects of life that are important to me, what would that look like? Right? So, okay, step number one, defining that. Okay, step number two when it comes to this, right? So once we've defined it, now we got to become it. Right? So we got to go on this becoming journey. So step number two is to make sure that you are not chasing happiness. And the reason why I bring this up today is, most of the biggest pains that I ever have experienced in my own life, whether it be pains financially, pains, internally, about how I felt about myself, whether it be, like what led to depression, all of those, like the biggest pains, whether it be mental, physical, whatever, have ultimately led from me chasing happiness. And today, I want to say everybody, but most are just like, oh, I just want to be happy. That's what the goal is. I just want to be happy, right? Well, I can tell you from personal experience, and not just from my own personal experience, but having so many conversations and consulting and working with, so many entrepreneurs and helping people, create success in different aspects of their lives. Anybody that is chasing happiness, I've never seen it go out there and become truly fulfilled. Right? Because here's the thing is when you just want to be happy, right? That ends up being we then are seeking comfort, right? Because in order to go out there and become that badass that you're looking at in the mirror, that you are extremely proud of, you got to do a lot of bullshit that's going to make you unhappy to become that person. It's like what would make me happy in the moment would be hitting that snooze button and sleeping in for an extra hour instead of getting my ass out of bed early when I'm supposed to get my ass out of bed. Right? What would make me happy would be chilling my ass on the fucking couch, watching a movie, not going out there and getting in the gym. What would make me maybe happy in that moment would be, fucking eating, insert whatever your favorite food is versus, eating the things that actually make me proud of my body, right? And, God played kind of a cruel trick on us. It's like, with diet, but also things in business and almost any area of life that we want to create success in. It's like the hard shit, the uncomfortable shit is what leads to those epic great results. Like when it comes to food, like I said, God played kind of a cruel trick on us if you want to look at it that way. where all the things that taste amazing, for the most part, are pretty much bad for us, right? But then a lot of the things that, are great for us don't necessarily taste amazing. Eventually get used to it. Like I love my diet now, even though most people couldn't fathom eating what I eat on a daily basis, but this is what I'm speaking about. When you're chasing happiness, it leads to so much pain and so much unhappiness because now you're just heading from fix to fix to fix, temporary fix to fix to fix. And those things never fix the true core problem. So again, what are those things that you must do? What are those activities? What are those pains? What is that uncomfortableness, that uncomfortable things that you must push yourself through, that you must suffer through in order to go out there and become that badass that you're wanting to go out there and become? So for me, I don't chase happiness. I chase fulfillment. How have I defined fulfillment? I've defined fulfillment by that person looking back at me in the mirror. I'm proud of who I see there. Okay, I know that in order to become that person, I got to do a lot of hard shit. I got to be disciplined. I got to make a lot of difficult choices. I've got to be a person that's willing to go out there and go through suffering and push through suffering, because I've just realized that, dude, like in order to go out there and grow and expand, you got to suffer, right? Like if I want my body to grow in a good way, from a muscular standpoint of a way, like good, healthy weight, okay, I got to put my body through a lot of suffering to go out there and do that. Same thing in my business. I want my business to grow. I want to grow financially. Man, I got to get in those extra hours. I got to push through that pain. I got to push that boredom. I got to do all those things that my competitors won't do, aren't willing to do, right? And then boom, what follows that is that growth. What follows that is that success. So again, don't chase happiness, chase what is truly making you fulfilled. And what is going to make you fulfilled is how you define what that badass person is, right? Like what's a badass, father or a mother? What's a badass significant other? What's a badass, whatever business that you're in? I'm assuming most of you are in real estate. What's a badass realtor, badass team leader, badass, brokerage owner? How do you define that? Okay, well, what's the shit that badasses do that create that level of success? What do they do? What do they push through, right? And again, a lot of that shit that you got to push through is going to make you unhappy in the moment. Eventually, you may learn to love it, right? That's the cool thing about, this stuff. Like I love the pain now, right? And I know that sounds weird and twisted, but eventually you learn to love that stuff. Like I love when things get extremely difficult. Not that I necessarily love the difficult things, or going through and pushing through that pain in the moment. I just love what I know it's going to lead to and lead towards. Okay, so then number 3 is to then create a habit plan. So you've got this habit plan. Okay, what in order to turn myself into this badass that I want to become? What are the habits I must adopt? What are the habits I must break? And then you come up with a plan to go out there and adopt those right habits and break those bad habits. And if you watch the last Leveling Up episode that I did, when I talked about developing more mental strength, I did a deep dive into this. If you didn't watch that, I highly recommend to go watch that. But I talked about this heavily in there. My recommendation is to work on one habit at a time. Don't think that, look, you don't need to become the badass overnight, right? Like that badass that you want to become. It may not happen overnight. It may not happen within a year. It may take several years to get there, or a decade to get there. Who gives a shit how long it's going to take? The time is going to pass anyway. What's the alternative? Not do shit and stay a loser? Right? Like, okay, that's not something I'm willing to do. Like, I'm not willing to, be the old version of myself that was a freaking straight up loser. No, I want to go out there and be a badass. Now, some of you might be saying, oh, that's rude. That's mean. Calling yourself a loser. Look, I'm just going to deal in realities. My old previous self was a fucking loser. I do not, I'm not going to accept that version of myself anymore. So I don't care how long it's going to take me to turn into that future badass that I manifest in my head of me being. And just so you know, like, I'm not saying I'm there yet. Some people might deem me that way or, whatever, but I'm just starting this journey, man. Like the badass that I visualize in my head is light years ahead of where I am today in all these different elements. So I'm still chasing it, man. I'm still going after it. I'm getting after it each and every day. It's why I continue to do this. And one thing I get asked a lot is like, why do you keep doing this shit each and every day, Josh? Why do you keep pushing all of this? Like, dude, I'm still chasing that badass that when I look in the mirror that I'm proud of. I have not hit that person yet, not even close. Like I'm not even 50% of the way there yet. I still got a long way to go, and I'm devoting the rest of my life to becoming that fucking badass that I know I'm capable of becoming. Another way of looking at this, of saying a badass, is just, again, doing everything that you can to hit your peak operation or operating potential, right? So then we're developing that habit plan. What are the habits that you must adopt? What are the habits that you must break? So again, what are that badass that you visualize yourself being? What are those things that they do? What are those things that they don't do? Whatever. And then you adopt those habits, and then you break those bad habits. And I recommend, again. I know I'm being repetitive here, but repetition is how success is created. Is, just focusing on, okay, I'm adopting one habit at a time. I'm working on just that one thing, whether it's either adopting a new habit or breaking an old bad habit, just working on one at a time. And it may take me a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, a year, whatever, to adopt or break that habit. Once that one's done, it becomes a habit. And what is a habit? A habit is something that now you are doing automatically. You're doing it without even having to think about it. It's just now subconscious. It's just happening, right? Okay, so number 3, again, develop that habit plan. Okay, number 4 is setting up your environment. So when we talk about environment, I'm talking about people, so people being part of your environment, and then your overall physical environment. So if you look at my space here all throughout, if I were to take you through a tour of my office building, it's like, look, man, I have it set up in a way that inspires me. On every single wall, there is a hand-picked piece of art, wall art, whatever the hell you want to call it, posters on the wall, whatever, that have a certain saying, a certain message that just gets me in that right mind. It's those reminders each and every day, so set up your physical environment, so then that way it keeps you inspired but also minimizes those distractions. So then that way you can, again, abide by those right habits and break those bad habits and whatnot. Just eliminate those bullshit distractions. We want to set up our environment where it's as easy to win as possible, but then also it makes it as difficult as possible to go out there and lose. Now, another element of this is the people. Environment is also people. You probably heard many, many times that saying out there. I think Jim Rohn was at least the first I ever heard say it, is that you're an average of the 5 people that you spend the most time around. Okay, well, are you hanging out with other badasses? I'm not saying that you got to drop the other people that you don't deem to be a badass in your life. Like, you might have other important people in your life that aren't badasses and, that are so important to you. Okay, cool. We all have those people in our life. Like, I'm not one that's like, oh, I got to cut out everybody that's not, but I'm going to make sure that I'm spending an abundance of time with motherfucking badasses. Right? As much time as I possibly can. I want to always be like the dumbest, the weakest, the brokest person in every room that I possibly can get myself around. Right? So hanging out with, other driven mofos that are wanting to go out there and create, and like their definition of badass doesn't even be the same as yours. Right? It can be different for all of us. Like, I don't care what their goals are. I just want to hang out and spend as much time with others that I possibly can that are leveling up in life as well. Like, they're chasing their own dreams, goals, and visions. Our dreams, goals, and visions can completely differ. They're trying to become their own version of how they define a badass. I'm trying to become my own version of this, but they're not accepting mediocrity. They're not, they're just, just wired differently. We're just wired in that same manner. So making sure, again, that you're spending that time with the right people, you're surrounding yourself with the right people. Like so often in this industry, I'll hear people that will be making a decision based on what company that they're going to join based on just splits. And I'm like, okay, like you can do that if you want, but like, what if you go join this organization over here? And there's just a bunch of losers at that organization. There are no fucking badasses, right? Or anybody that you deem to be a badass. There are no mega producers at that organization. Okay, now if I go, but then visualize that, right? So you got a bunch of agents maybe just doing, subpar production, just a bunch of average production, mediocre agents, mediocre team lead, whatever. Then versus over here, now this other brokerage, that's brokerage A, I go over to brokerage B, maybe I'm paying a little bit more in fees or even twice as much in fees. I don't give a shit, but there's a bunch of fucking badass rock stars. Number one, I can learn from, right? Success is in osmosis, right? The competition's there, that competitive drive is there. It's like my first brokerage I was at for the first 9 years, I was like, dude, I didn't care what the splits were. I was just like, I want to go find the biggest badass I possibly can in the industry, find the highest producing office and identify my mentor that's the biggest badass I can find. I don't care what I'm going to pay, what I have to pay them. I just want to be around them, be in that presence, because I knew by being in that environment, the person that I would become over time would make me a hell of a lot more money than I'd ever have to pay in splits. And I'm not saying this isn't a split thing, and I'm not here trying to, talk about, that element of it. But again, setting up your environment to win. Do you think you're good? Like, are you going to be a better basketball player if you join the team that Michael Jordan was on versus, when you don't like, dude, it raised the game for everybody. Okay. So step number 5, becoming a badass is making sure that you are setting up your daily planning and reflection. So taking 10, 15, 20 minutes max each and every day, right? You reflect on how that last 24 hours of your life went, what went good, what went bad, how can I improve, where did I fall short? put a plan in place for that next 24 hours to go out there and do everything you possibly can to have the next best 24 hours, right? So you plan out that next perfect day, and trying to, again, as we're doing this, when we're reflecting and planning live time as things are taken up, we can sit there and assess, okay, what's making me veer off? What adjustments, what tweaks do I need to make live time? So we want to do this while this stuff is fresh. You never, ever, ever want to enter a single day without it being committed to paper first. All right, so step number 6, and the last step here to becoming an absolute badass, is do not listen to society. If we look at society today, what average do, when I'm speaking of society, we're looking at the masses, right? Well, if you listen to the masses today, so if you were listening to society today, it is going to keep you broke. It's going to keep you, broke, dumb, lazy, fat, like you name it. That's what society leads you to, right? So when I'm talking, you're going to have a lot of society in your ears. Like look, if you follow the standard American diet today, right? Like standard American diet, what does that stand for? SAD, right? Because it's going to make you sad. It's going to make you depressed. It's going to make you like you want to be unhealthy and like lead to obesity in the quickest way possible. Go follow the recommended government food recommendations. They just updated this from the old food pyramid that we all learned as kids growing up. On there, they have like fucking Lucky Charms being healthier than eggs. Like, go follow that shit. That's what society is telling us to do. Society is telling you to go out there and work 40 hours a week, take 2 days off every single week, take 2 vacations a year, seek balance, don't work so hard, you got to slow down and smell the road, whatever it may be. And you're defining what the badass is for you, so this is going to be different. But what I'm just telling you right now is if you listen to the masses, that typically is going to lead to you being the opposite of what you deem to be a badass. Like when everybody else is going right, you go left. Everybody else is going left, you go right. Do the opposite of what the masses do. If you break this down, only 2%, if we look at averages now. So only 2% of Americans today at the age of 65 or older can retire without being reliant on family and or government aid to take care of them. So that's 98% of the human population. Okay, so then why, if I don't want that situation to be me, if that is not the definition of my future badass self, okay, why would I listen to the other 98%? That's following that path. If I listen to the other 98%, like I'm going to make sure I'm going to end up on that same path that they're in, right? So this is what I mean. Don't listen to society. There's a lot of noise, man. There's a lot of people out there chirping in your ear. There's a lot of messages out there, that's just constantly bombarded with us. Got to shut that shit out, man. You got to block out that noise, and listen to, again, your own internal self, man, of how you deem to be a badass. Surround yourself with those right people. So to recap these real quick. Number 1, define what a badass means to you. And the way I define this is when I'm looking in that mirror, who is that person that's looking back, where I'm proud of that person I'm seeing in the mirror. All right, number 2, don't chase happiness, chase fulfillment, not happiness. Again, a lot of the things that make you happy in the moment are going to lead to that future growth that you want. Most of the things that are going to lead to that future growth and that future becoming of that badass you want to become are going to it's going to require you doing unhappy shit. Okay, number 3, develop that habitual habit plan. Number 4, setting up your environment to win. Environment means people as well as your physical environment. Number 5, daily planning and reflection. Number 6, do not listen to society. So these are my 6 steps of how to become a badass. Hope you've enjoyed this leveling up episode. Make sure that you are checking out GSDMode.com for more additional free training and resources. Also at GSDMode.com, you can learn more about my coaching program. Hit that coaching tab. You can schedule a 100% zero pressure discovery call with me personally, where we'll spend a few minutes walking you through what my coaching is, how it works, walk you through all those details so you can decipher it's a fit for you or not. But then we also turn that into a coaching call where we're talking about where your business is, where you want it to be, what your current biggest obstacles are. So even if my coaching isn't a fit for you, I make sure that these calls are massively valuable for you. So you can go to GSDMode.com, click on that coaching tab, schedule, and those are with me personally. Not delegated out, at least as of right now, dude. It's not delegated. That may not be indefinitely forever, but as of right now, those are with me personally. So again, GSDMode.com. All right, guys, truly appreciate all your support. Keep crushing, keep leveling up, and I'll see you next time. Peace.